Hey, welcome back to Cincy Fish Dudes. My name is Paul, and I made a segmented crawly pattern crankbait, and I'm going to test it out right now. But before we get into that, why don't you see how I made it on this episode of Okay, let's get started. And first I'm going to draw up a shape in Photoshop, and we'll go ahead and print that out because we're going to be cutting that shape out and putting it on our block of wood. Now I'm going to use this decal paper, and we're going to print a design on this and use that for later. And the design I'm going to go with is a crawl pattern because I'm going to do a springtime red crawl crankbait. That's going to be segmented. And once I get that pattern in place, I'm going to select the shape of my crankbait and then delete everything on the outside. And we'll go ahead and print that out. And we're going to use this as our decal later on. I'm going to use Tupelo wood, first time for me, and I love this stuff. Look at it, it looks like a slice of butter. And it cuts like butter, and it carves wonderfully. I have nothing but good things to say about carving Tupelo wood. First, I'm going to use the bandsaw and cut out our general shape. So if you like these videos and you want to see more Build-A-Bait videos, go ahead and subscribe. It's something I like to do all winter long when I'm trying to make fishing content for the channel, and because fishing is not the greatest in this area in February, so might as well prepare for spring, right? So that is the reason why I want to do this segmented crankbait, and it's the first time I've ever made a segmented lure. I'm making a crawl pattern on this bait because, you know, bass love crawdads. They're attracted to crawdads or crayfish because they're a natural part of their diet. Crayfish are abundant in many bodies of water, and they provide a high protein meal for bass. The movement and the coloration of crawdads also mimic wounded baitfish, making them an enticing target for bass. So like I said before, this is my first segmented crankbait, and this is a type of fishing lure that consists of multiple jointed sections, and they're connected by flexible links. This design allows the lure to mimic the movement of a wounded baitfish more realistically, as each segment moves independently, and it creates like a lifelike swimming action in the water. This can make it more enticing to predatory fish like bass, pike, muskie. Tupelo wood is favored by carvers for several reasons. It's lightweight, it has a fine grain, and it's easy to carve, and it allows for intricate details without much effort. I'm not really going to put a lot of intricate details on this lure, but the carving is just phenomenal with Tupelo. Additionally, it has a minimal grain pattern, which it reduces the risk of splintering or chipping during the carving, which is awesome. So this channel is obviously called Cincy Fish Dudes, named after the city that I live in right now, Cincinnati, which is in southwest Ohio. But Tupelo trees, they do grow in Ohio, but mostly in the southeastern part of the state where the climate is a little more conducive to their growth. They can be found in wetland areas along rivers and in swampy regions, and while they may not be as abundant as in some of the southern states, they do exist in Ohio's natural landscape. So now I'm going to drill a pilot hole right through the bait so that the eyes will be uniform on both sides. I'm going to use my router to route out some ocular cavities. And on the bottom I will make a couple holes that we will fill lead in, which will, so we can ballast the crankbait so it can float correctly in the water. Now I'm going to put the holes where the tie-on eyes will go, and I'm going to use the bandsaw to carefully cut the slot where our crankbait lip is going to go. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and get our section ready that we're going to cut to make this a segmented bait. I mean, there's probably better ways to do this, but I'm just going to use the bandsaw and go ahead and cut that piece right there. And then we can just take it off, and I'll sand it up and get it all ready and figure out what we got to do next. I think we got to do the tie-on eyes where we put the hooks in the line leader, as well as the connecting part that will connect the two segments together. Using steel wire and a drill, I'm going to go ahead and make our tie-on eyes and our hook holders and all that fun stuff. I have that to hold the segments and then our 3 tie-on eyes. And we'll go ahead and get that ready. I'm not going to glue the segment together just yet. That's going to come after painting. But I will go ahead and glue in the line holder and the bottom hook holder as well as the rear hook holder. Now I'm going to make the lip or the bill, and I'm going to use Lexan polycarbonate, or you can also purchase these bills pre-made already. It's up to you on what you want to do. I like to sand the end of the bill so that the super glue has something to hold on to. Next, we're going to drop some lead into the holes that we routed out earlier. I ended up making a 3rd hole later on. I don't think I filmed it, but it will just get it a little lower in the water column, or it makes it a little easier to get down when it needs to. This shellac I'm going to use to go ahead and waterproof the lure so that we can do our water test. This is cocaine, and we're just going to fill that hole with it. No, I'm just kidding. It's baking soda, and when you add baking soda and super glue together, you get a very, very strong substance. Okay, as you can see, it floats pretty high in the water, but it does stay upright. It's correctly ballast, but when you add paint and a clear coat and all that other stuff, plus I'm going to put in another lead hole, it'll go a little bit lower in the water. I went ahead and started with red, but looking back, I should have put on a white or a black coat first. It was a little, tough to get the red on like I wanted it, but we live and we learn. Now I know red is a big color for lures in the springtime in our region, but I didn't know until recently that crawdads in Cincinnati in our region typically turn red in color during the later summer months, usually from July to September. This time frame, it coincides with the breeding season and favorable environmental conditions for crawdads to exhibit their red coloration. Now I'm just going to use stencils to put in the top and then black to just color out the face a little bit. And then for some reason I put silver on the bottom and I wasn't really happy with that. And then I cut out our decals and I put those on, and they, with something about the round body and things like that, it just didn't want to stick right, and it was doing funny things with the paint. And although it looked kind of cool here, I ended up having to re-sand this whole thing down, and I put on a coat of clear coat, and I wanted to start over the next day. So what you're seeing now will all be erased. I just wasn't happy with my work. So I put on some polyurethane, and then we wait until the next day, and I started all over with more red paint. Yellow on the bottom, stencils on the sides, stencils on the top, black on the face. It's more of a rush job because I was just getting frustrated with the airbrush and the whole process. I added yellow eyes this time, and then I cut some Cincy Fish Dude decals out just to put the logo on the bottom. And now I'm going to start mixing our clear coat 1-to-1 ratio, and I'm going to add a little bit of gold glitter in there just so the reflection in the water will just give something that will catch the bass's eyes more than just the red. It's going to be a very visible lure. So we'll go ahead and put that clear coat on and then start the rotation and let that settle for, let's say, 24 hours. The next day I added the hardware, the hooks, and connected the 2 segments, and then I took it down to the lake. Now it's a beautiful 60-degree February day, but the waters are not 60 degrees. The waters are still February, so I'm not expecting to catch a fish on this big lure. First thing I like to do is see how and where it sits in the water. Okay, it floats to the top. Wow! That actually looks beautiful. I mean, the lure is not my prettiest, but as far as frickin' action goes, heck yeah, I'm pumped. So the square bill gets it down deep, and it also blocks it from those treble hooks hooking onto things. So when I throw it out there, it sits on the top of the surface, but then I give it a nice big yank and start cranking it. It is a crankbait, and it gets under, it gets down there. I can feel it touching rocks. And then you let it go, and it just floats back up to the surface. And man, the action is just phenomenal. And I was kind of worried that those hooks would catch each other, but they're not. So I'm really happy with this. Not super excited about the design. I can do better. I was just getting frustrated. As you can see, you got that silver tipped tail in the back. Are you on the purple, Ned Rig?
Yeah.
You see, guys, my homemade lure is not getting it done, but Larry's catching bass over here. What you got? You said the purple's working well for you this time of year?
Yeah.
All right, he's got a Ned Rig on a Texas rig hook over there.
Yeah, this is a dink.
Hey, a dink in February is just about as good as it gets though, right? Nice. No fish today, no fish, but I'm happy. It's okay. I'm really happy about the action. From what became the most frustrating bait for me to make, and it wasn't really so much the carving and all that, it was had some issues with the tie-ons in between the segments, and the airbrush was being all weird. I haven't used it for a while and it was all clogged up and just making a mess of things, and the decals weren't working like I thought they would, but this is how we learn. One thing I did learn is this movement, this action works, and I'm gonna catch some fish in the river this spring. But thank you for sticking around, and if you have stuck around this long, write your favorite springtime bait in the comments below and I'll believe you. And regardless if I believe you or not, I always appreciate you stopping by and giving our videos a watch. We'll be back as soon as we can. It's a beautiful, beautiful week here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And although it's February, spring is coming quick. Spring is coming really quick. 3 weeks and 5 days. So until then, check us out on all these social medias. And then I'll throw some thumbnails up here. And check out some of those thumbnails. And we'll see you again soon on Cincy Fish Dudes.